Howdy and welcome back to my channel. Today I am here with the Yamaha TW200 and there's one thing that I want to find out, and that is, can I make it go any faster? Now you may be asking yourself, Mark, why the hell would you waste your time trying to make a 200cc dual sport designed in 1987 that runs an ATV tire faster? The answer is simple. It's a dual sport, which means that it should have some capability to ride both on-road and off-road. And there are times that I want to go dual sporting off-road at locations that are close to the house that wouldn't necessarily warrant a load of the motorcycle into the back of the pickup truck. But before I make any changes to the TW200 to make it go faster, I need to find out how fast it actually goes. Now, in my last video, the bike registered and indicated 73 miles per hour. But I don't think that's true. So I'm gonna hop on the bike and do a few tests and we'll find out how fast it really goes before we turn any knobs. Let's go. Test ride time. Let's get the gas turned on. There we go. She's in neutral. This bike doesn't need any choke to start on a hot day like this, but it is going to be a little unhappy until it gets warm, properly warm. Oh man, it's such a slow bike that I forget like just how slow it is. But it doesn't mean just because it's slow that it's not fun. I'm going to wait for traffic to pass here because this bike is so slow. I don't want to get run over. I don't want to piss anybody off. All right, we are up to about 50. We are pinned. Feel the power. All right, so we just hit 65 and this thing says 60. So it was 65 on the speedometer and 60 on the phone. We're in fifth gear. That's 70 and it says, let's see, hold on, 70 says 64. So we've got about a 5 to 6 mile per hour delta, if you will, between indicated and actual speed at highway speed. This would be state highway speed. So if you are riding a TW200 and you wonder why you're being passed when you're going the speed limit and you feel like the people around you might not be speeding, it's because you're actually going a little slower, at least on this bike. I cannot be responsible for your bike speedometer. Your mileage may vary, yada, yada, yada. Let's see if we can find a nice flat spot to do our 0 to 60 test, assuming we can actually make it to 60. One of the hidden benefits of this bike is you can ride behind somebody that's going the speed limit, which could be annoying in most cases, but on this bike, it's still pretty fun because you don't really have any more in the tank, or at least not much. All right, let's see if we can get a 0 to 60 on this piece of road right here. Here we go. Yes! All right, that's about as good as we're gonna get. I'll put the time up on the screen. I am not a professional rider, but that is good enough. And I will come back here and reference that stretch of road for our comparative 0 to 60. I'm feeling really good about that. Now, let's get back to the house. I suppose I should tell you at this point what my plan is. I want to upgrade the main jet on the TW200's Carby. Many people feel the TW200 is tuned too lean from the factory, which is not uncommon for any carbureted motorcycle sold in 2025. So when I arrived home, I let the bike cool off and then I started the process of removing the carb. The trickiest bit is removing that throttle cable. It's not too bad, but it is fiddly the first time you try it. Moving around to the other side, I needed to drain the fuel out of the carb, but the drain screw was stuck, so a little tap with the impact driver and it loosened it right up. If you don't have one of these, by the way, they are worth their weight in gold. Get you one. Next, I removed the bowl, then the main jet. Mine was a 122 and I replaced it with a 128. I'll talk more about the jet sizing in a bit. Then I put all the screws back in the float bowl, turned the carb upright, and reattached the cables. Apologies for not showing all of that, but it was over 100 outside and the camera decided it was too hot to keep trucking. With the carb jetting complete, it's time to test the Teedub.
All right, the carb is back together on the bike. I've cleaned it out a little bit. I've got the throttle action adjusted. Gas is on. See how she goes. I have done a couple of laps around the backyard and it seems punchier. I'm curious to see what our thorough scientific testing shows. So after I did the tuning, I debated if I should even do this test, and that's because the oil on the bike looks super nasty. The guy told me he had maintained it, and I didn't check it, and I don't think he did. It does feel, wow, it feels a lot quicker. I don't know if it really is. The bike felt kind of anemic in the upper RPMs. I mean, it's only like 12 horsepower or whatever, but it felt very, I don't know, it didn't feel happy. It's the best way I could explain it. And while it's definitely no Busa, it does feel a lot happier now. We could get up to 52 or so, you know, back road speed without any real challenge. No surging, no signs of any significant challenges on the tuning. This bike is obviously a lot more forgiving on the carb tuning than the old DR650, which is very persnickety, at least it has been for me. All right, so my plan is I'm gonna go to this gas station and line up at the stop sign so we can get a nice flat run to the south. We'll let that guy go. And then this is our moment, 0 to 60. Come on, baby. Be faster. Be faster. All right. I have no idea if that was any faster. It doesn't feel a lot different than before. It's still fun. It really is. Like that kind of poke right there. It feels a lot, I don't know, smoother, punchier, all the above. Like you can feel it make power. It's not a lot, but you can feel it increasing. And before it was like a suggestion. It didn't feel authoritative, the throttle, if that makes any sense. The other benefit of adding fuel to this bike is that it will keep the engine running a little bit cooler. You don't want to just keep dumping fuel in there till, you know, you're washing down the cylinders and the bike's running poorly. But these very lean mixtures that they set these bikes up with from the factory, they just can't be good for them. I mean, this thing doesn't even have an oil cooler. You can't get one, but it doesn't have one. And I feel a lot better about the fuel mixture that we're running now. So it's worth mentioning that the TW200 over the years, they came with different jets depending upon where they were shipped to and the year they were made. And a lot of that has to do with the EPA in the United States wanting, Yamaha to have cleaner emissions, etc. And so these bikes were shipped with, or at least my bike was shipped with a 122 main jet. Now, in the years prior to 2016, I believe it was shipped with a 126 main jet, which was, a bigger jet. And we've gone up to a 128, just a teeny bit over a 126. And to be honest with you, going back to a 126 jet, the original tuning, if you will, it might have been good enough. And then, of course, these bikes ship with the air-fuel mixture screw for the idle circuit plugged. It has a little bitty hole in it, and you can simply put a wood screw in the hole and pull the plug out with a pair of pliers. And that allows you to add a little more fuel to the bottom end before you get on the main jet. So it's usually set about a turn out, the mixture screw, and we've turned it out one more time. So we basically doubled it.
Okay, we pulled the carburetor apart. We swapped out the lean, tiny 122 main jet with a 128. And what do I think? Well, we found out together that this bike's not any quantitatively faster with the bigger jet and more fuel. But we also found out that this bike does run a good bit better. The throttle inputs are better, the bike seems to run smoother, and it just feels a little less wheezy or anemic on the top end. And I think that's worth the effort. I mean, it was 3 to 4 hours of my time tinkering with the bike as well as some time to research it, but I learned a lot about carburation along the way. And I only spent about $20 on the jet, so yeah, would I do it again? Absolutely. So that's it for today's video. I have more Teedub content and more DR650 content coming soon, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel, smash that like button so that other riders can find this video, and until next time, ride safe.